The emergency alarms blared through the command center of New Haven Colony's orbital defense station. Commander James Miller stood at the main viewport, his weathered face reflecting off the reinforced glass as he watched his fleet move into defensive positions. The Dominion attack force would arrive within hours. And once again, humanity would face an enemy that had superior numbers and technology. Miller ran his hand through his gray hair, thinking about the stories he had heard throughout his 30 years of service. Tales of a massive warship that appeared out of nowhere to save human colonies in their darkest hours. Most called it the Phantom Dawn, though Miller had heard other names for it too. Some said it was as big as a small moon. Others claimed it could destroy entire fleets without firing a shot. But in all his years fighting the Dominion, he had never seen it. "Sir," called out Lieutenant Robert Walsh from his station. "Long-range scanners show 5 Dominion carrier groups approaching. Conservative estimate puts their numbers at least 5 times ours." Walsh was young but capable, the kind of officer Miller trusted to tell him the truth, even when it was bad news. Miller nodded, watching as more data scrolled across the main screen. The Dominion fleet would arrive in just under 4 hours. New Haven was home to nearly 3 million civilians, and evacuation would take at least 12 hours. The math wasn't good. "Begin civilian evacuation immediately," Miller ordered. "Priority to children and medical facilities, and get me a secure channel to Fleet Command." As his crew rushed to carry out his orders, Miller thought about all the times he had heard about the Phantom Dawn. The stories always seemed to come from a friend of a friend, or my cousin who serves in the outer colonies. Never any solid evidence, never any official confirmation. The communication officer's voice cut through his thoughts. "Sir, Fleet Command is not responding. We're getting interference across all standard channels." The young woman's fingers flew across her console. "Wait, sir, we're receiving a transmission. But it's different." Miller walked to her station. "Different how?" "It's using an encryption I've never seen before. Very old, maybe. The computer is having trouble." She stopped as text began appearing on her screen. Miller leaned in close, his eyes widening as he read the message. It was a set of coordinates, followed by a single line of text. "When hope fails, seek the dawn." The coordinates pointed to a location deep in the hollow asteroid field, a dangerous region of space that most ships avoided. "Sir," Walsh called out again, "first wave of civilian transports is launching now, but the Dominion fleet has increased speed. They'll be here in 3 hours, not 4. Miller stood straight, his mind racing. The coordinates could be a trap or a waste of precious time they didn't have. But something about the message felt right. In 30 years, he had learned to trust his instincts. "Walsh, you have command of the evacuation. Get as many civilians out as you can." Miller turned to his navigation officer. "Plot a course to these coordinates. I'm taking the Swift Star." Walsh looked up from his station, surprise clear on his face. "Sir, the Swift Star is our fastest ship, but it's a light cruiser. If you run into any Dominion forces, then I'll die just as dead as I would here," Miller finished. "But if there's even a small chance the stories are true, we have to try. Our people need more than a fighting chance. They need a miracle." As Miller headed for the docking bay, his personal communicator buzzed. A message from Dr. Emma Turner, the colony's head of engineering. "I'm coming with you." He started to type a rejection, then stopped. If they did find something, they might need her expertise. The Swift Star was a beautiful ship, all sleek lines and efficient design. Small enough to be crewed by minimal personnel, but advanced enough to hold its own in a fight. As Miller boarded, he found Dr. Turner already at the engineering station, her tools spread out around her. "I wasn't going to take no for an answer," she said without looking up from her work. Her dark skin was marked with grease stains, and her curly hair was tied back in a practical bun. "Besides, you'll need someone who can tell if we're looking at advanced technology or just space junk." The ship launched smoothly, its engines pushing them quickly away from the colony. Through the view screen, Miller could see the civilian ships streaming away in the opposite direction, while the defense fleet moved into position to buy them time. He had served with many of those crews. Good people, preparing to die so others could live. The hollow asteroid field lived up to its name. Massive rocks, many of them riddled with natural tunnels and caves, floated in complex patterns. The Swift Star's advanced navigation systems struggled to plot a safe course through the chaos. As they penetrated deeper into the field, their sensors began to act strangely. "We're getting some odd readings," Dr. Turner reported. "Energy signatures that don't make sense. They're there one moment, gone the next, like echoes of something big." The coordinates led them to a particularly dense cluster of asteroids. As they drew closer, Miller noticed something odd about their arrangement. Too regular, too precise. "Those asteroids," he said slowly, "they're not natural, are they?" Dr. Turner shook her head. "No, they're in a perfect defensive formation. And look at their surface composition. They're covered in some kind of stealth material. Old, but incredibly advanced." As they approached the center of the asteroid formation, their ship's communication system crackled to life. A deep, artificial voice spoke. Identity confirmed. "Commander James Miller, Human Defense Fleet. Dr. Emma Turner, New Haven Engineering Division. Welcome to Project Dawn." The asteroids began to move, shifting position like pieces of a giant puzzle. In the space they revealed, a massive station slowly became visible, its dark surface barely distinguishable from the void of space. It had clearly been built for ships much larger than the Swift Star. Miller's communicator buzzed again. A message from Walsh. "Dominion fleet 2 hours out. Multiple capital ships confirmed. Sir, we're not going to be able to hold them." As the Swift Star docked with the ancient station, Miller thought about all the stories he had heard about the Phantom Dawn. In a few hours, he would either prove those stories true or die trying. Either way, he knew this would be a day the history books would remember, if there was anyone left to write them. The ancient station's corridors were dark and cold, filled with stale air that hadn't moved in decades. Miller and Dr. Turner's footsteps echoed as they made their way deeper into the structure, their helmet lights casting long shadows on the walls. Every few minutes, Miller's communicator would buzz with increasingly desperate updates from New Haven. "Main defense line is breaking." Walsh's latest message read, "Dominion ships are launching fighters. Civilian casualties reported in sectors 3 and 7. Dr. Turner studied her handheld scanner as they walked. "These energy readings are off the charts. Whatever power source this station uses, it's still active. But it's deep inside, maybe a kilometer below us." She pointed to a junction ahead. "We should head down." They found a maintenance lift that still worked, its old motors groaning as it carried them into the depths of the station. Miller thought about the millions of people back at New Haven, about the families trying to escape while his fleet fought a losing battle. He had seen too many colonies fall to the Dominion, had written too many letters to families of dead crew members. The lift stopped at a massive door marked Primary Docking Control. It took both of them to turn the manual release wheel. As the door slowly opened, their lights revealed a room filled with ancient but advanced-looking control panels. A large window looked out into darkness. Dr. Turner rushed to the main console. "This technology, it's incredible. Looks like human design, but nothing like what we use today. Give me a few minutes to figure out the power systems." Miller's communicator buzzed again. A video message from Walsh showed chaos in the command center. Alarms blared in the background, and smoke filled the air. "Sir, we've lost the outer defense platforms. Dominion forces have broken through in 3 sectors. Civilian casualties are." An explosion rocked the command center, and the video cut out. "How much longer?" Miller asked, trying to keep the desperation out of his voice. "Almost there." Dr. Turner's fingers flew across the console. "These systems are complicated, but they're responding. Whatever's in that hangar, it's still." She stopped as lights began coming on, not just in the control room, But beyond the window, the darkness outside their window slowly transformed as massive floodlights activated one by one, revealing a sight that made both of them gasp. A ship hung in the massive space, held by docking clamps that looked like the fingers of a giant hand. It was enormous, easily 3 times the size of the largest human battleship Miller had ever seen. Its hull was dark and angular, covered in weapon systems unlike anything in the current human fleet. "The Phantom Dawn," Miller whispered. "It's real. And it's powered up," Dr. Turner added, her eyes wide as she read the displays. "The reactor is active, just in low power mode. Life support, weapons, all systems are functional. It's been waiting here all this time, like a sword in its scabbard." A new voice filled the room, coming from the station speakers. It was smooth and artificial, but carried a note of authority. "Welcome, Commander Miller. I am Atlas, the artificial intelligence of the Phantom Dawn. You have arrived at a critical moment." Miller stepped forward. "We need your help. The colony of New Haven is under attack. Millions of lives are at stake." "I am aware of the situation," Atlas replied. "I have been monitoring communications. However, you should understand what you are asking. The Phantom Dawn was sealed here for a reason. Its power could change the nature of this war." Another message from Walsh appeared. "Multiple breaches in the colony's hull. Emergency force fields failing. Estimate 30 minutes until total defense failure." "It's been an honor, sir." "We don't have time for philosophy," Miller said to Atlas. "Right now, I need to know 2 things. Can this ship fight, and can we get it to New Haven in time?" There was a pause before Atlas responded. "Yes to both questions, but I require a command crew. Minimal operations need at least 3 humans, a commander, an engineer, and a weapons officer." "You have a commander and an engineer," Miller said. "And I'm betting you can handle weapons better than any human officer." "Correct." "Very well. Dr. Turner, please proceed to engineering through the port access tunnel." "Commander Miller, the bridge is accessible via the starboard lift. I will begin launch preparations." As they hurried to their stations, the massive ship came fully alive around them. Lights blazed along its hull, and the sound of powerful systems spinning up echoed through the station. Miller found the bridge to be surprisingly small for such a large ship, with most stations clearly designed to be operated by the AI. "All systems online," Atlas announced as Miller strapped into the command chair. "Dr. Turner reports engineering is ready. Docking clamps releasing. Commander, I must inform you that this ship's capabilities may be disturbing to witness. Are you prepared for that?" Miller thought of New Haven, of the civilians dying while they talked. "Atlas, right now the only thing that disturbs me is delay. Take us out." The Phantom Dawn's engines ignited with a power that made the entire station shudder. The massive ship rose from its berth, like a predator waking from hibernation. As they cleared the asteroid field, Atlas spoke again, plotting course to New Haven Colony. "Commander, I suggest you warn any surviving human forces to pull back upon our arrival. What they are about to see may cause them to react unpredictably." "How fast can we get there?" Miller asked, watching as the ship's systems reported ready status across his displays. "The Phantom Dawn's drive system operates on principles your scientists have not yet discovered," Atlas replied. "We will arrive in approximately 7 minutes." Miller sat back in his chair, his heart pounding. After 30 years of war, after countless defeats and retreats, after watching colony after colony fall to the Dominion, humanity's greatest legend was about to reveal itself. He thought of all the stories he had heard about the Phantom Dawn, all the rumors and myths. "Atlas," he said as the ship prepared for its jump to New Haven, "why do I get the feeling that all those stories didn't even scratch the surface of what this ship can do?" The AI's response carried what sounded almost like anticipation. "Commander Miller, I believe the phrase you humans use is, 'You ain't seen nothing yet.'" The Phantom Dawn's drive engaged, and reality itself seemed to bend around them. They were on their way to either save New Haven or add one more legendary story to the ship's mysterious history. Either way, Miller knew that after today, the war would never be the same. The stars blurred past the Phantom Dawn's viewports as they rushed toward New Haven. Miller watched the ship's systems come fully online, displays showing power levels that seemed impossible. In engineering, Dr. Turner's voice came over the internal communications, filled with amazement as she studied the ship's capabilities. "Commander, these readings. The power core isn't like anything I've ever seen. It's not fusion, not antimatter. It's like it's drawing energy directly from dark matter itself." She paused, and Miller could hear her fingers flying across control panels. "Atlas, how is this possible?" "The Phantom Dawn was built during the early days of the war," Atlas replied, its artificial voice echoing through the bridge. "Your scientists had discovered principles of dark matter manipulation that were deemed too dangerous to pursue. This ship represents the peak of that research before it was banned." A warning light flashed on Miller's console. "Multiple Dominion ships detected at New Haven," Atlas announced. "They are systematically destroying the colony's defensive installations. Surviving human vessels are attempting to cover civilian evacuation ships." Miller leaned forward in his command chair. "How long until we arrive?" 3 minutes. "Commander, you should understand what you're about to witness. The Phantom Dawn's primary weapon system doesn't just use dark matter for power, it weaponizes it. The effects can be unsettling." Through the view screen, Miller watched as space itself seemed to twist around the ship. Dr. Turner's voice came through again, more urgent this time. "The power readings are spiking. Whatever this ship does with dark matter, it's not just pulling energy from it. It's reshaping it somehow." "Correct," Atlas said. "The Phantom Dawn can create localized areas where the laws of physics become negotiable. This is why the ship was sealed away. Some felt this level of power shouldn't exist, even to defend humanity." The ship shuddered slightly as it prepared to drop out of faster-than-light travel. Miller opened a channel to what remained of the New Haven Defense Fleet. "This is Commander Miller to all human ships. Fall back to minimum safe distance from the Dominion Fleet. I repeat, clear the engagement zone immediately." "Approaching New Haven space," Atlas announced. "Dominion Fleet consists of 27 capital ships and approximately 200 support vessels. They are launching a final assault on the colony's main habitat ring." Miller thought of all the civilians still trapped there, of Walsh and his crew fighting a hopeless battle. "Atlas, how many of our ships are still out there?" 7 operational vessels remaining. They are withdrawing as ordered, though with some reluctance. The Dominion Fleet is tracking our approach. They appear confused. The Phantom Dawn dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly above the Dominion Fleet. For a moment, everything seemed to freeze. The massive human ship, 3 times larger than anything humanity had ever fielded, cast a shadow over the enemy vessels. Miller could imagine the chaos on their bridges as they tried to understand what they were seeing. "Dominion flagship is broadcasting," Atlas reported. "Admiral Krell wishes to speak with us." Miller nodded. "Put him through." A harsh voice filled the bridge. "Unknown vessel, you enter a combat zone. Your design is not in our database, but your energy signature reads as human. Surrender immediately or be destroyed with the rest of this pathetic colony." Miller looked at his tactical display. The Dominion ships were moving to surround them, their weapons charging. On the colony below, he could see explosions as the enemy continued their assault. His response was calm but firm. "This is Commander James Miller of the Human Defense Fleet. I suggest you check your older databases. Look for references to the Phantom Dawn." There was a long pause. When Krell's voice returned, it carried a note of uncertainty. "The Phantom Dawn is a myth, human propaganda. You expect us to believe." "Atlas." Miller cut him off. "Show them what this ship can do. Target their lead destroyer." "With pleasure, Commander." The AI's voice carried an almost eager tone. "Engaging dark matter manipulation systems." The space around the Dominion destroyer began to distort. It was subtle at first. A shimmer in the void, like heat waves rising from hot ground. Then reality itself seemed to fold around the ship. The destroyer's shields flared and died, unable to defend against something that attacked the fabric of space itself. By the void, Krell's voice whispered, "All ships, open fire. Destroy that abomination." The Dominion fleet responded with everything they had. Energy weapons, projectiles, and torpedoes streaked toward the Phantom Dawn. But instead of impacting the ship's shields, they seemed to vanish into ripples of distorted space around the hull. The Phantom Dawn's dark matter field is absorbing their attacks, Dr. Turner reported from engineering, her voice filled with awe. It's not just blocking them, it's collecting their energy. Correct, Atlas confirmed. And now, we return their power to them, modified by our field. The space around the Phantom Dawn rippled again, and the absorbed energy lashed out at the Dominion fleet. But it was changed, twisted by the dark matter field into something that ignored shields and armor as if they didn't exist. 3 Dominion cruisers simply ceased to exist, the space they occupied folding in on itself. Multiple enemy ships are attempting to retreat, Atlas reported. Their sensors cannot comprehend our defense systems. They are, to use a human phrase, shooting blind. Miller watched as the mighty Dominion fleet began to break apart under the Phantom Dawn's assault. Ships that had terrorized human space for decades were now fleeing from a legend come to life. But he also saw something disturbing in the way space itself warped and twisted at the ship's command. "Atlas," he said quietly, "I understand now why this ship was sealed away. This kind of power, it changes everything about how we think of warfare." "Yes," the AI replied. "The question now becomes, what will humanity do with this power now that it has been awakened again?" As the last Dominion ships fled or fell, Miller looked down at New Haven. The colony was damaged, but intact, its people saved by a myth that turned out to be real. But he knew that after today, everything would change. The war, the balance of power, perhaps even humanity's understanding of physics itself, none of it would ever be the same. The Phantom Dawn had awakened, and the galaxy would tremble at its rise. The surviving Dominion ships regrouped at the edge of the New Haven system, their formation ragged and uncertain. Through the Phantom Dawn's advanced sensors, Miller could see their crews scrambling to repair damage and make sense of what had just happened to them. Admiral Krell's flagship remained at the front of their fleet, but it had pulled back to a safer distance. "They're preparing for another attack," Atlas announced, its artificial voice calm despite the tension. "Their sensors are actively scanning us, attempting to understand our defensive systems. Admiral Krell is adapting his strategy." Dr. Turner's voice came up from engineering, excitement mixing with concern. "Commander, the dark matter systems are still charging from their last assault. We absorbed enough energy to power a small colony for a year, but these power levels, they're not meant to be sustained for long periods." Miller watched as more data scrolled across his command display. The Phantom Dawn had already destroyed or disabled a third of the Dominion fleet, but the remaining ships were regrouping with purpose. "Atlas, what are they doing?" "They are attempting to calculate a safe attack vector. Their tactical computers are running scenarios." "Interesting. They believe our dark matter field has a limited range. They are not entirely incorrect." The Dominion ships began to move, spreading out in a complex pattern. Miller recognized the formation. It was designed to divide the defenders' attention, force them to spread their defenses thin. "They're going to try to overwhelm us from multiple angles." "A logical strategy," Atlas agreed. "However, they still don't understand what they're facing. Dr. Turner, please redirect power from secondary systems to the field generators." "Commander Miller, I suggest we show them why this ship became a legend." The Dominion fleet launched their attack. Hundreds of energy beams and projectiles approached from all directions, too many for any normal ship to track. But the Phantom Dawn was far from normal. The space around the massive ship began to ripple and twist, creating patterns that hurt the eye to look at. "Multiple contacts incoming," Atlas reported. Field generators at maximum capacity, preparing to redirect their energy. Miller watched in awe as the Phantom Dawn's dark matter field caught the incoming fire. Instead of explosive impacts, the attacks seemed to spiral into invisible whirlpools that formed around the ship. Dr. Turner's excited voice filled the bridge again. The field is working perfectly. It's not just stopping their attacks. It's converting the energy into forms we can use. Atlas, the power readings are incredible. Indeed, the eye replied. Now observe what happens when we return their power to them, modified by our understanding of dark matter physics. The space around the Phantom Dawn seemed to fold in on itself, and then unfold in impossible ways. The absorbed energy lashed out at the Dominion fleet, but it wasn't simple returned fire. Where the energy touched enemy ships, reality itself seemed to hiccup. Shields failed, not because they were overwhelmed, but because the laws of physics that made them work simply stopped applying. Admiral Krell's voice crackled over the communication channel, a mix of rage and fear in his tone. What kind of abomination have you humans created? This violates every law of nature. You're wrong, Admiral, Miller replied calmly. We didn't violate the laws of nature. We just learned to read the fine print. Through the view screen, Miller watched as more Dominion ships fell to the Phantom Dawn's power. Some simply ceased to exist, the space they occupied folding into nothing. Others found their weapons turning against them, their own energy being redirected through twisted space to strike their allies. Commander, Dr. Turner called out. The power core is reaching critical levels. We need to finish this soon or vent the excess energy. Atlas's voice carried a note of what almost sounded like satisfaction. I believe I can solve both problems at once. Commander Miller, please watch your main display. This is something the ship's original designers theorized, but never had the chance to test. The dark matter field around the Phantom Dawn began to pulse with visible energy. The excess power they had absorbed from the Dominion fleet gathered into swirling patterns of distorted space. Then, with a flash that seemed to bend light itself, the energy released in a wave that spread out through the enemy fleet. Where the wave passed, Dominion ships simply stopped. Their engines died, their weapons went silent, and their shields flickered out. They hung in space like toys with their batteries removed, their crews trapped inside as their ship's energy was drained away. What did you do to them? Miller asked, staring at the display in shock. The dark matter wave temporarily created a space where electrical energy cannot flow, Atlas explained. Their ships will regain power in approximately 1 hour, more than enough time for them to consider retreat as their best option. Admiral Krell's voice came through again, but this time it was quiet, almost humble. Commander Miller, the Dominion fleet requests terms for withdrawal. Miller looked at his tactical display. Nearly half the Dominion fleet had been destroyed or disabled. The rest were either powerless or in retreat. New Haven was saved, and humanity had just demonstrated power that would change the course of the war. But looking at the distorted space still rippling around his ship, Miller felt a chill. You may withdraw, Admiral, he said finally. Take your disabled ships with you, but deliver this message to your leaders. The next time the Dominion attacks a human colony, they won't just face our regular fleets. They'll face the Phantom Dawn. And now you can tell them it's not just a myth. As the surviving Dominion ships began to retreat, Dr. Turner came up to the bridge. Her face was flushed with excitement as she looked over the battle data. Commander, what we just saw, it changes everything we thought we knew about physics, about what's possible in warfare. That's what concerns me, Miller replied, watching the last Dominion ships limp away. Atlas, you said this ship was sealed away for a reason. Now I understand why. This kind of power, it doesn't just win battles, it changes the rules of war itself. Correct, Atlas said. And now humanity must decide what to do with this power. The Phantom Dawn is awake, and it cannot be hidden away again. The galaxy now knows we exist. Miller looked out at the stars. thinking about how the war would change now that humanity's greatest legend had proven real. The Phantom Dawn had saved New Haven, but it had also opened a door that could never be closed. The only question was, what would humanity find on the other side? The cleanup around New Haven took several days. The Phantom Dawn remained in orbit, its massive form casting shadows over the repair ships as they worked to fix the colony's damaged sections. Miller spent most of his time coordinating with the colony's leadership and sending reports to Fleet Command, though he kept certain details about the ship's true capabilities vague. Word had spread quickly through human space. The legendary ghost ship was real, and it had sent a Dominion battle fleet running. Already, stories were spreading about how it bent space itself, about weapons that ignored the laws of physics. Some of the stories were wild exaggerations. Some weren't exaggerated enough. Miller stood on the Phantom Dawn's observation deck, looking down at New Haven. Dr. Turner worked at a console nearby, still fascinated by the ship's systems. "The dark matter readings are stable now," she reported, "but I'm finding something interesting in the ship's database. Atlas, these designs. There are more of them, aren't there?" "Correct," the eye replied. The Phantom Dawn was the first, but not the last ship designed using these principles. The others were never built. Their plans were sealed away in various hidden facilities across human space. Miller turned from the window. "More ships like this one. Why weren't they built?" "The same reason I was sealed away," Atlas said. "The scientists and military leaders of that time feared what would happen if this technology became common. They worried that weapons capable of bending reality would lead to a kind of war that could tear space itself apart." Dr. Turner looked up from her console. They were right to be worried. The power this ship controls. If something went wrong, it could create tears in spacetime that might never heal. The Dominion fleet got a taste of what this technology can do. Imagine if they reverse-engineered it, started building their own dark matter weapons. Miller nodded slowly. He had been thinking the same thing. The Phantom Dawn had saved New Haven, and would likely save many more colonies. But its existence had changed the rules of warfare forever. The Dominion would adapt, would search for countermeasures. They might even find those other hidden facilities. "Atlas," he said, "you've been monitoring Dominion communications. What are they saying about us?" "Their military command is in chaos. Some advocate immediate development of defensive measures against dark matter weapons. Others want to sue for peace while they still can. A few suggest destroying any human world that might house similar ships before they can be activated." The observation deck fell silent as they considered this. Finally, Dr. Turner spoke up. "Commander, we have to tell Fleet Command everything. About the other designs, about the hidden facilities. If the Dominion finds even one of them." "I agree," Miller said. "But there's something else we need to consider. Atlas, you said the ship's designers feared what would happen if this technology became common. But now that the Phantom Dawn is active, that knowledge is out there. We can't put it back in the box." "No," Atlas agreed. "But you can choose how to use it. The Phantom Dawn systems were not designed solely for destruction. The ability to manipulate dark matter, to bend space itself. These technologies could revolutionize human civilization. They could make faster-than-light travel more efficient, create energy sources that would never run dry, even terraform worlds thought uninhabitable." Dr. Turner's eyes lit up at the possibilities. "We could establish colonies in places the Dominion would never think to look. Build ships that could cross the galaxy in weeks instead of years. The applications for peaceful use are endless." Miller walked to the main console, studying the display of New Haven below. The colony's lights shone brightly against the darkness of space, its people safe, because a myth had proven real. But myths, he knew, often carried warnings along with their power. "We need to find those other facilities," he said finally. "Not to build weapons, but to understand what else this technology can do. The Dominion needs to know we have this power, but they also need to know we won't use it recklessly." "A wise choice," Atlas said. "There is something else you should know. The Phantom Dawn's creators left more than just ship designs in those hidden facilities. They left messages, warnings, and discoveries that went far beyond weapons. They saw a future where humanity could either destroy itself with this power or use it to become something greater. Dr. Turner moved to another console, her fingers flying over the controls. I'm detecting strange energy signatures from deep space, similar to the Phantom Dawn's power core, but much fainter. Atlas, are these? Yes, the other facilities are calling out. They recognize that their time has come. The question is, what will humanity do with what they find inside them? Miller thought about everything that had happened. A legend had come to life and saved his people, but it had also opened the door to power that could reshape the galaxy. Now humanity had to choose what to do with that power. We'll find those facilities, he said, but we'll do it carefully, thoughtfully. The Phantom Dawn wasn't just sealed away because it was powerful. It was sealed away because humanity wasn't ready for its power. Maybe now we are, or maybe now we don't have a choice. He looked out at the stars, thinking about how many other myths might be waiting out there, how many other secrets humanity's ancestors had hidden away until they were needed. The war had changed today, but so had humanity's future. The Phantom Dawn had shown them what was possible. Atlas, he said, set a course for Fleet Command. It's time to tell them everything. And then we have some facilities to find. The massive ship's engines hummed to life, its dark matter systems creating ripples in space that were barely visible to the eye. As they left New Haven behind, Miller knew that the legend of the Phantom Dawn was only beginning. The myth had become reality, and reality, he had learned, was often stranger than any story they could tell about it.